And I'm gonna be high.
Good on you, Donald. I'm the Rocket Man, yeah.
I'm a rocket man. And I'm gonna be
Rocket Man.
I'm a rocket man.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Logistics. Today we've got the founder of Bubba.aI, Bubba.aI, and I will let my guest tell you all about himself and what Bubba.aI is. How are you doing today, man?
Good. How are you, Gabe? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining. And honestly, funny enough, we got introduced because you have a team member on your team named Gabriel, and
Exactly.
my name is Gabriel, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, nice name." And then we started a conversation. And so I didn't know what Bubba.ai was, but
Yeah.
for the audience's perspective, tell us about Bubba, and then I'm going to ask all kinds of questions about you, about why you're doing this, and we've had some background of, I know you have multiple companies and you've done this before, but
hmm
the AI side is super intriguing to me and many others. And then for the folks listening, I don't know anything except for what I did on a Google search about Bubba, so we're learning at the same time. So this is going to be real
Perfect.
curiosity here. So tell me what it is. Tell us what you got going on.
Yeah. So Baba came about last year when I was trying to think what to do next. I mean, I
Mhm.
always like to build things. So I have another company running. I'll tell you more later. But Baba is more about how can I help truck drivers. In my other company, we have 10,000 trucks, mostly small 1 to 5 trucks. So I know them very well. And the biggest challenge they have is running their operations. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, uh, AI is something new, which is uh, can definitely solve this problem, and that's how Baba was born. So the idea was, can we handle the complete back office operation without a human being involved in it? And the thesis is from day one is purely focused on carriers. Start with 1 to 5 trucks, and then now we are already talking to some bigger accounts as well. But then start with 1 to 5 trucks and how we can solve the day-to-day challenges for them. So what Baba does today is we just tell Baba, hey, I want to go from Dallas to Chicago. Baba will say, okay, I'll connect to, Baba can connect to DAT, truck stop, through, it can also connect to other broker load boards directly to brokers.
Yeah.
It will find the freight matching to your criterias. And based on your dollar amount requirement, it will go call the broker or shipper directly, negotiate on your behalf, and book the entire freight and give you the rate confirmation. So it's a complete end-to-end, like a AI dispatcher for you sitting in the background. And the other good part of that, Baba, is we wanted to build for this 1 to 5 trucks. So how do we reimagine the interface? Because the problem with the owner operator is they are driving. If she's driving a
Yeah.
truck, she cannot kind of go and search. That's the biggest problem. That's why they end up hiring a dispatcher. So Baba is completely voice first. There is no keyboard. Like when you open an app, there is no keyboard. There's only mic button. So just talk to Baba as freely as you can. And in any slang, in any language, Baba understands that, and Baba will go and do the job for you. And that's the
Wow.
vision that we started with. And today we can book loads for you, and tomorrow we'll be able to do a lot more other things, like finding a mechanic, local mechanic, if a truck breaks down, things like that. Book a hotel. We already talking for parking club, truck parking club, so we can book truck parking for you.
So I'm glad I didn't know what it was, because this is like genuine curiosity. And it's like, if you say 1 to 5 trucks, and from
Mhm.
my experience, it's mostly one truck.
Yeah.
The 1 to 5 is the fleet size that qualifies in that search. Maybe not just for Bubba, but for the industry. But it's a lot of
Yeah.
times one, maybe 2 trucks. It's an owner operator, and he's got a truck.
hmm
And like, I don't think people talk about it all that often. We talk about brokers and truck and carriers and how they interact on DAT and how they book loads and they post and there's fraud and all this. But a
Yeah.
general like conversation is, the trucker picks up a load, and if he's bringing it from Chicago to Dallas and he lives in Chicago, he wants to get back.
hmm
But like, a perfect world is he just goes Dallas to Chicago and goes back. That's
Yeah.
just not how it works. You might
No,
go
no.
Dallas to Tallahassee and then Tallahassee to Raleigh and then Raleigh to Chicago. It's just
Yes.
not how it, and so they always have to find loads.
Mhm.
And like people don't even think about, I mean, you do. I don't even think about the fact that the only time they can search loads is when they're not driving.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest challenge,
It's
right? So they end up involving their spouse, their niece, their nephews, or whoever
or an
they can find in their
you know,
family, right? It's like,
overseas dispatcher, which is like the most common.
yes.
And
And
I
that's
get,
the biggest
I'm
problem
not
we've seen in last 5 years is it
even, yeah,
started with a humble idea that, okay, I can have a dispatcher overseas, and it worked initially. And then you started seeing fraudsters, right? There
oh,
are of
so
course so
many.
many good ones, but there are absolutely so many bad ones. Is it has completely spoiled the taste, and now you
Yeah.
can absolutely not trust any of them, even if they are good ones. Like you don't know the difference, and that's
Yeah,
the
there isn't
challenge.
like a badge they can wear that says we're certified by somebody, so now we're
Yeah.
legit. And I think some companies are trying to take that route, maybe
Hmm.
Highway and others, but that's a big hill to climb and to fight the fraud that way. But
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't heard anybody say, "Why don't we just not use the overseas dispatchers and do it a different way?"
That's the
This is
goal. I
awesome. So
mean, yeah,
so
AI
you have
can
to tell me
solve
why
the
you named
challenge.
it
Yeah.
Bubba, right? Bubba is just a southern name Bubba, right? That's
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
be
yeah.
what it is.
It is what it
And
is.
they're
What
truck driving and they're
absolutely.
just on their radio and they say, "Hey, Bubba, find me a load going
So there
to
is a
Atlanta."
lot that went into the name, the branding, and other things. I mean, uh, one of my co-founder, Clarissa, right? She has a degree in economics from Harvard, and she focuses on like saying, okay, how I can deliver something which a user can understand, right? And
Yeah.
the idea was we have to find a name which is first of all not complicated. It has to be short enough, something which a trucker will understand, and
Yep.
something you can then of course search easily. There are not many conflicts and stuff with some other brands or other companies. That's how the
Yep.
Bubba name came about. And if you go to our website Bubba.ai, AI is very hard for people to understand. So we have created an avatar, a mascot, and this is like a blue mascot with a mustache and the glasses, and
Yeah.
uh, and it's been so fun. So since then, it's like Baba can dance, Baba can talk, Baba can do so many things. It's sitting next to you, literally in the truck. So that gives
That's
a
awesome.
psychological perception, right, for a truck driver. Okay, I'm talking to this guy with a
Yeah, you
mustache.
personified it. That's cool.
Yeah, and so that has worked really well for us so far, and people love that. It's yeah, and it has to be something which you can remember.
Well, I think that, and correct me if I'm taking this the wrong direction, but like I think of DAT acquiring Convoy and like the ideas behind that is to automate the load matching and to be able to have a marketplace where truckers can just find loads and make it super
Mhm.
easy. I think Bubba's just a more intuitive version of that because the like you can just access any tool, whether it's DAT Convoy or if there's another load board and Highway succeeds in theirs or
Mhm.
XYZ. Bubba's like a way more than a virtual assistant, but that's the idea is like, hey, we'll just take care of the finding the
Oh yeah.
next load at the right rate. And then you'll be able to do so much more. I'm sure you've like you could maybe share what you're doing with it, but like once you have all the data on
Oh yeah.
that fleet, then you'll know their preferences and Bubba will find loads without being asked and present them and say, "Hey, you wanted this last time and this one's actually a better rate per mile and it's this type of product and I talked to the broker and they said that it's a hot load so you got to be unloaded. I
Yeah.
think you can do it based on your arrival time and I'm going to book your hotel." And
Oh yeah,
man,
and all of the above, right? So first is you brought a good point about DET acquiring Convoy's platform, and we see it, and we are very close partner with DAT, Truck Stop, and hopefully Highway soon, whenever kind of they they publicly go about the load boards.
yeah.
But DAT, right? I mean, the acquisition, what we feel is right. The old way of doing it, like the platform, the Convoy platform, can automate only certain things if they
Yeah.
have an API connection, if they have this, if they have that, right? So there's so many moving pieces for them to that automation to work. And then plus there
Mhm.
should be on the other side who is accepting that platform, a broker or a shipper who is saying, okay, I can look into this bid. And the broker is very busy anyways, right? They are on the call. They will obviously handle the call first rather than like going into the system. The advantage with Bubba is we don't care, absolutely don't care how is the other side. Are they accepting it on some UI, or they're picking up the phone or email or text or WhatsApp or Telegram? Like Bubba can communicate in any way imagined possible.
Yeah.
And that's the game changer with AI is if the platform can cover 3% of the load, 5% of the load, Baba can cover like entirety of the 100% of the load,
Yep.
discovery and qualification for that load, right, before booking. And we also launched a new feature, trip planner. So now you can plan a trip upfront, where in same example, Dallas to Chicago, you'll say, okay, I just want a backhaul. Tomorrow we're going to launch, not tomorrow literally, but in a week or so, few weeks, as trip recommendations. So let's say if you have booked a certain load, we will recommend you trip, which may not be directly from Chicago to Dallas. It might go some other route and then come back, maybe go to New Jersey or Florida and then come to Dallas. Uh,
Yeah.
so we are working on these kind of things, which kind of truly automate a dispatcher where, and now this dispatcher connects to your email. So the only way to access Bubba is you give access to the email, you verify your MC, your DOT, you pull in all of your documents so we know your insurance is on check or not. Uh, and then we have the carrier packet ready for you. Not just that, right? We see all the email communication. So we have, since launch, we have more than 1,000 people sign up, and this is just in like 2 months. And this is without any uh, paid advertisements or anything. I just talk to people who are curious like you, and we go out there, and it's just word of mouth and referrals in that sense. So we have collected so many email information as well from these customers. And then when a load shows up in your email, forget about DAT or truck stop. You already have a relationship with the broker. You've worked with them in the past. They send you email every morning. Now, if owner operator is driving, they cannot read that email until a few hours, and then the loads are
Yeah.
gone. Baba can read those email in real time and respond to the broker if there is a match based on the route planning. And yeah, you can start that negotiation and book the load right away. And this all happens while you're driving, and then Baba will show a notification on your phone saying, hey, I have an offer from the broker, do you want to accept or reject? And this is while broker is on the phone. So yeah, driver can accept it. And like we also do rate verification, like rate confirmation verification. So broker sends you rate con, let's say the negotiated rate is 2200, rate con says 2000, like many times
Yep.
you just miss it. So we do verify that, this is the basic. We also go and give you highlights of the terms and conditions of a rate confirmation. So there are, these days there are some brokers who have like weird terms in the rate confirmation
Yeah.
saying,
If
hey, if
you're
you're late
late
by an
or if
hour,
you,
there's a $200 fee or whatever. So we highlight those, and then you can still choose if you want a freight, or if you don't want it, you can say, okay, I don't want this. Sorry, it's a rejection.
yeah, I think that that's an interesting area to be discovered, or I think that I wouldn't say necessarily brokers take advantage, although they do.
Some
They will
do,
put these
some
long
definitely do.
terms and
Yeah.
conditions, and then it's like, oh, you were late, or even just like if you're talking food distribution, like lumpers and those things, they put all
Oh yeah.
these like, well, we won't pay this, we won't pay that,
Mhm.
and it's
You
in
have to
fine
update
print.
us
You guys
over a
are driving.
phone or over email every one
Yeah, you
hour
said it
about
over
the
the phone,
location.
and then you sign the
Yeah.
rate con because it is the right amount.
Mhm.
And then, like, where has this has been battled not between the owner operator, the guy or gal driving, but really with like the factoring companies that they send their loads to. Then they
Oh yeah.
battle with the brokers, and they say, "Oh,
Mhm.
well, yeah, actually, this was signed." And
Mhm.
I, if I take a different business example, I use AI in a similar fashion to read contracts now because
Yeah.
I could send it to an attorney, and I've always had to do that. And it'll be a few days before they review it. And then they'll give it a cursory glance, but they don't understand the industry I'm in the way that I do.
They
But
don't.
you don't even have to train an LLM anymore. Grok or ChatGPT 5,
Yes, just
they
put it
under,
in
I
there. It
just say,
will tell
hey,
you everything.
I'm in trucking. I'm doing this. And here's the context. Here's the thing.
Mhm.
Tell me where I'm going to get screwed. And
Yeah.
it finds it and
It
says,
finds.
oh, this isn't mutual indemnification. Of course you want mutual. And then all these things that I used to use lawyers for. So this is Bubba's empowering the fuel of the economy, which is the owner operator, being able
Yeah.
to not only trip plan and those things, which makes their life better. And on side tangent is if anybody travels for business, you know how hard it is to like coordinate a hotel and a rental car, and then maybe we're Ubering, and then there's a different hotel, and now the flights changed. Think
Yes.
of that example, except for your entire livelihood is traveling all over the country, and there's gas stations and hotels and food and
Oh yeah.
another load, and that's just this is the trucker's best friend, Bubba.
Oh
How
yeah.
many? Let me take a different approach at
Sure.
this. How many people like this? Sounds groundbreaking. Is this a really crowded market? Is there a lot of people that you're competing with trying to achieve this same thing? Kind of like on the like the Happy Robot, Vuma, Fleetworks side, where
On the
it's like on
broker
the
side,
broker
yeah.
side.
I think on the broker side, there is absolutely so many players. On carrier side, we don't see many. In fact, up until like a few weeks ago, there were absolutely no one. And now I
That's
think,
what I was trying to get at because I
yeah,
try to stay informed, and I know of now Augment, and I was just looking into
yeah.
Augment, and they just raised $85 million on a Series A,
Yep.
and apparently it's the founder from Deliver, and I'm like, holy! But they're
And
all broker face.
Harish is a good friend of mine, so I know
Oh,
about
is
them.
he?
Like,
Yeah, I just
yeah, yeah,
found that over the
since
weekend.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to ask you after the show to get me in touch with him because I couldn't book a
absolutely, yeah.
demo until like the end of October, and I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
can
know
hook
what
you
this.
up. I'm actually meeting him tomorrow. But then,
Okay, good.
yeah, he's a
But
good friend, and they're doing an absolutely really good thing. I mean, I think they are also looking at an approach of a holistic approach, but they are focusing
mhm,
more on brokers.
yeah,
I mean, of course, they do focus on some carriers as well. I mean, but as you might know, it's very hard to have a product for both sides because they're
yeah,
both their vested interests are interest is totally opposite. If a broker is
yeah,
making more money, that means carrier is making less money. If carrier is making more money, that means broker is making less money, right? So
yeah,
you and that's what we decided from day one, that we're gonna not make a single dollar from any broker. We publicly say that we abide by that we by that rule. So entire of our products, anything we do is purely carrier focused, and we cannot have if we're negotiating, I cannot have any product whatsoever for broker, because then who am I negotiating for? I mean, you don't want
yeah.
a agent,
You're
right,
building
buying a house.
Bubba and
Yeah,
his friend Dale, and Dale's going to be the broker side. You can't do that. And
cannot
so
do that. Yeah,
I really, the reason I asked the question of like how many other people are doing this is because I didn't know of any until you just told me about yours. And it just makes sense. Why wouldn't you do this? And then I realized why people are going after the brokers. That's where the easiest and most,
yeah.
maybe I'll ask you next how you guys are doing this, if you're bootstrapping or raising and all that stuff. But like, I think there's probably 5 players in the broker side
Mhm.
before
More
Augment
than
came
that.
along,
Yeah.
that I was like, man, it could be any of those 5 that win this. And then now there's like 25.
Yeah.
And then, Vuma, and I love Vuma and like the idea of it. And I know Jesse somewhat well,
Okay.
and he's a highly competent founder, probably the most competent in that industry doing that. They raised $16 million Series A. It was a big deal.
And now
Augment
it's like
raised
85.
85 million. I was
And this is the
absolutely
second round, by
shocked.
the way. They have 110 total. They raised 25 million in the first round,
In a
seed
seed,
round.
and then
Yeah.
Series
And now
A.
this is Series A is 85.
So
So it's
their
like
seed
100,
was bigger than
110.
everybody else's Series A, and it's a
Absolutely. The guy
similar
sold it
concept.
for 2.5 billion, right? His previous company. So
Yeah, delivered to
yeah,
Shopify.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And he knows a thing about or two, right? He worked at Amazon early
yeah,
on.
and so
So
it's really fun to see that. But I know
yeah,
why people are going after the broker industry because there's
yes.
truckload brokerage is $1 trillion, and that's where everything lives. But the
I have my
carrier side
own,
maybe as
yeah,
intuitively lucrative, but like it's word of mouth. You don't get word of
yes,
mouth like you do out of owner operators. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be
absolutely.
wildfire. That's what Trucker Tools did. They're like, hey, we got
Yeah,
this thing, and suddenly it was like that went crazy.
yes. Yeah, I know Prasad as well very well. Good friend. So they have delivered, right, very well. And that's what you're right about, right? Owner operator, it's a hard business to go. We have done that before. So my other company, TruckX, I don't run it day to day. I still own it, but we have 10,000 carriers over there, a lot of trucks, right? Especially focused on like 1 to 5 trucks. So I definitely know the mindset of these owner operators. uh, and in general carrier, right? Even if we have is, I think most of the companies you look at focused on brokers are venture backed businesses, and these businesses focus more on brokers because it's easier to see uh, a real outcome in a short term. Because you have a big broker, you just go after it and you solve some problem and kind of, yeah, you can charge for that, right? So it's easier for a VC to understand. It's easier for founder to see how it can grow big. On the
Yeah.
carrier front, be it owner operator or a large carrier, it's just a hard business to get into. Just hard for them to pay you, and it requires a
Yeah.
more long term kind of patience and like someone in the industry who really knows about it. And we think it's a big plus for us. I mean, we haven't raised any outside capital. We're building it internally, and I'm funding it myself. We have a 15 people team, building it purely focused on engineering, and it has been a great journey. And I think if we solve this problem for owner operators and large fleets as well, it's a much bigger business than a broker side of the business where they have more competition, and then it always race goes to the bottom. Over here,
Yeah.
we are. I mean, AI is solving most of the industry. If you look at, it works really well if people don't like it, but where you actually replace someone, like you really have to figure out a way where someone in your vertical is doing some manual work, and then you have to replace that person with AI and
Yeah.
have that person do something else. uh,
I
but
don't
this is
know
the
if
reality.
I don't know if you'll agree with this take, but the way that I look at it is, and it's maybe controversial, is that I think it's a fool's errand unless you have the deepest pockets and the best VC fund. There will be a couple of winners on the broker AI side, but what's different is that they're servicing like the VC backed companies that are servicing brokers with AI load dispatching and all of that. The broker will be able to build a similar tool themselves at some point, whether they use an in like their engineers do it or
Mhm.
another company comes along and does it for cheaper and it's a race to the bottom. So they're servicing a client that eventually might look at them and say, "Hey, that's a really big bottom line expense for us. Could we do the AI in house in a couple of years?" And that's what
Yeah.
I think happened to Project 44. And I
Yeah.
love, the founder story of Jet McCandles, I guess. And, like Project 44 was a massive success, but they served massive broker clients who eventually said, "Hey, we pay millions of dollars to a company that we could just build our own API connections and
Yeah.
not pay millions of dollars." So it's like that's the same thing I see with AI in broker tech is that like, and the reason I can say that is because I don't use any of those companies, but I use AI at Rocket to do missed pickups and track and trace
Mhm.
and load planning because I have a full stack developer who can build AI and MCP
Build it. Yeah.
servers and agentic motions and
Oh,
N8N
nice.
workflows. And so like
Yeah.
I can do it. And we're a mid-market small broker comparative to Arrive Logistics, but they're going to do it
Mhm.
in-house too. When it's
I
just a matter of
think
when they decide.
when they decide, yeah, I think either they do it in house or they will demand uh, the solution at a much cheaper cost.
Yeah, eventually
Uh,
it'll be a cheaper
so,
service. They can't do per
cheaper service.
transaction. Now it's going to be flat fees. And it's like, how do you predict cost? But then on your side, on Bubba, I could be wrong, but I don't think you'll have the same problem. I don't think owner operators are going to start building AI for themselves. And so you're
It's
going to
not
have
about building
competition that someone might build something competitive to
something,
Bubba, but your
of course.
customer isn't going to build away from you
The
because you're
customer is
making their
not going to
experience
build for sure. I think the problem you're solving also matters. If you ask me, like this is my fourth business. I've done like a few before, uh, some being successful, some not, and and I think that the problem which we are solving, right, is a long term problem. It's not something, right? Today owner operator either uses their niece, nephew, their spouse to do the
yeah.
dispatch work, or the other option is they outsource, right, as you said, either to a third party overseas or locally, and you have to pay a hefty fee. Forget about the fraud and other things, that's a totally different conversation, but
Yeah.
you have to
It's
pay a
just
hefty
expensive.
fee. Right, it's
It takes
expensive, like
directly out
anywhere
of the
from,
margin stack. Yeah.
yeah, if you dispatch from overseas, they can charge like as low as 7%. to all the way to 15%, right? Or you go to a lease model like Landstar, which can you have to cough like 35%, right? So
Yeah. And then
it's
you use a factoring company and then you don't get paid
exactly
on time. Like all of those things eat away the actual costs, and fuel goes up, and now your cost to operate your truck, you're actually underwater. And
underwater.
now,
And I think the problem we are solving is something which they cannot bear the cost, right? If you have to hire a dispatcher in house, the cheapest is probably 60, 80K a year, right?
mhm.
And that's just too much
And then they'll
for the
eventually
owner
quit
operator.
or get fired, and then there's churn, and then there's all the
Yeah,
training you have to
there's
do to find somebody new, and you're trying to just move freight, and you're ended up managing people.
and
That's
this
not
AI
your
is
goal.
truly your buddy, right? It just works for you. It has access to all of your data, which this AI will not share it with anyone else, right? It will.
Hmm.
It's truly your companion, right? It's truly someone you can trust, where there won't be fraud, right? I mean, how can a truck show up with a different MC to a shipper, put your logo, get the loads, and run away? Someone did share the rate confirmation. Someone know the exact details of when to pick up where, right?
Yeah.
That means that information was leaked. Uh,
Which
uh,
means that it was shared where it shouldn't have been shared, and the AI won't do that because it's just your device and your
yeah,
email. So, I mean, it does solve a lot of things. I want to get into a little bit. You talked about your self-funding this TruckX. You've talked about, and I think we cut out there. So let me talk about TruckX a little bit. So you started TruckX. You guys are in 10,000. You have 10,000 customers, right, or 10,000 trucks that
please,
you're
yeah.
servicing,
Mhm.
and that is more of like a competitor to Samsara. But how did you build a company that you don't have to run anymore, that you didn't exit? Because I think if you asked 100 people in the logistics industry, 99 of them would say you build and you exit. That's the only way to do this. So you're the 1%. You built a company, you kept it, it
Yeah,
runs, and now you're getting to start another one and fund it from the proceeds of your success. Like that's pretty awesome. How did you do it?
I think one of the things, and I have been helping these other founders, totally different industries as well, is like think over the aspect of bootstrapping a business versus running a venture-backed business.
Yeah.
If my other company TruckX was venture backed, I can absolutely do not do what I'm doing today. Since it's bootstrapped, like I don't have to think about someone who gave me money and say, "Hey, why are you not working on it?" Right? As long as
Yeah.
I see that the company can run independently of me. Of course, I have a good team who manages the entire company for me. Uh, I can do that. I mean, yeah, I have like only one investor back in the day. He just wrote like 100K check. He's a billionaire. He reported to Steve Jobs for 23 years. A good friend of mine now. He's a French guy, French PhD. He managed the entire macOS division at Apple. He's a big shot. He knows about what I'm doing. He's very happy about. I mean, he doesn't care about his 100K check, I think, but he knows whenever he's going to
Yeah.
return, I'm going to return him. He's going to get more money. But I think that's one of the things, right? Once you raise money from VC, I mean, you absolutely have to not just work on that company, but also need to have like 100 or 1,000x returns. Like VCs don't invest to have 5x returns; they invest to have an
Yeah.
outlier of 100 or 1,000x returns, and
Unicorn.
they
Yeah.
will drag it to the ground to achieve that because they know they invested in 100 companies. Out of that, only 4 or 5 of them will have this gigantic exit, but they will drive all the 100 to achieve that, all the 100 companies to achieve that, and 90% of them will just die. And
They go to the graveyard, the VC
they,
graveyard.
yeah, we see graveyard. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm saying is if you can bootstrap, if you can do your own business yourself, I think the returns are not like you cannot say like Harish, I have a $2.5 billion exit, my friend, at Augment,
Yeah.
right, for his deliver. But then, but the same time, how many of these Harish are there, right? There are very
Yeah.
few, and
Well, if you think about it this way too, like you work with other founders and young founders, and that's like awesome that you're doing that, because my opinion is that if you're going to do VC backed, like people just don't know what they don't know when they decide to raise venture. And if they're making an informed decision and saying, "Hey, this is the stage of life I'm in. I'm going to swing for the fences and try to get the unicorn exit," then at least
Yeah,
they know that that's highly unlikely. And if it happens, then it's great, but
yeah,
that
of
most likely
course.
won't.
Then go for it for
But in
sure. Yeah.
a bootstrap business, and I bootstrapped Rocket, and like I'm
Mhm.
biased, like I think that's the best route, and that's why I was like, hey, how did you end up not managing your truck X anymore and start other things? Because I have always grappled with that. I'm 5 years in, and we're really successful, and
Mhm.
I love what I'm doing, and I
Yeah.
always thought that I had to exit in order to do something else. But apparently, you know something that I am now learning, and you can figure out. I think Rocket could run without me at some point. I just never thought that
Mhm.
that would be the path to take. Now
Have
I
to
might
take.
consider it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I
But
would love to
to
talk
your question,
more offline on this. I mean, you definitely have to give up a few things. It would not run the same way as you would because you literally have to give the baton to someone else to run it, and
yeah,
he or she will run it slightly differently. So you have to kind of give away that controlling thought, saying, why the heck is they doing this? They were supposed to do this. It just doesn't work. You have to have different kind of deliverables for them, and like just stick to those deliverables. And it's like as good as like saying, hey, this is your target, you just go achieve it. If you don't, let's talk, right? If you cannot, but
yeah,
then you cannot intervene in their operations.
yeah.
Like,
You got to give away actual control instead of just title,
yes,
which I think people
yep,
struggle with doing, and I would struggle with
yes.
doing right now, and it would take a real effort to do. I think it's cool though. It's like I've done 35 episodes of this, and then of course I've talked to people over the years at conferences about how they're doing things. And you're the
Mhm.
first person I've talked to that has done that successfully and then started something else cool.
Thank you.
So I'm going to tell my wife about this and be like, "Hey, I have a roadmap now. I could start something else without giving up Rocket someday." Because I always tell her, she's like, "Are we going to exit someday?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm 31. What else am I going to do? I'm going to have to start something else, and I don't want to start from scratch and."
And
Be
it's
in an
not
earnout or
necessarily
locked
always
up in
a
non-compete.
it's not necessarily always a good choice. I mean, I have an entrepreneurial bug to do this, I guess, and I saw
Yeah.
a big opportunity with AI and a much bigger problem I can solve, and that's why I kind of uh,
Pivot. Yep.
left it to the team and kind of really focusing 100% of my energy here is
Cool.
because I see there's a much bigger impact I can do. I mean, forget about financial impact, but the real impact, right, which AI can do in the trucking. And I want to
That's
be the
cool.
first one to do it, and we are the first one to start on the carrier side. I'm sure there are more players coming in, and uh, we'll just kind of uh, validate the things which we are doing. But yeah, we are way far ahead. I think we have thousands of customers who've signed up. We've already seen a lot of emails, phone calls going in and out, and we're excited about the future.
Yeah, that's super. I would even call it inspiring. And I don't use that word often because I wouldn't bet against you. And I think it's not just the funding model and the business model, but like it does take time to do what you're going to do. And it takes a lot of grind. And we talked about this before the show. I was like, what's your secret sauce? You're like, there isn't one. It's just really hard. But
You have to,
I mean,
yeah,
you're well connected. That helps. But you've done
yes,
it, and I think that Bubba is going to have some success. I have a couple more questions for you, not related
of
to
course.
Bubba. Two questions about the industry, and then I'll close with a question about how you're building businesses and how you've done things over the years. But one, you're in like the Lake Tahoe region now. You've been in Austin. You've been in India. How do you see the market moving with AI in relation to there's all this global talent, right? And logistics
Yeah,
has used global talent probably as much as any industry, right? Overseas, lean
yeah.
staffings of the world, all of that. Do you see that consolidating to like AI will replace outsourcing, or do you see it just another tool in the carrier's broker's toolbox? Do you see any consolidation there? What's your opinion?
There's two stories to it. I think so. I've been in the US for what 15, 16 years now. Mostly lived in the Valley, Silicon Valley. So I've seen like all the core tech building in the Valley. Then moved to Lake Tahoe, Incline Village, and Austin. So there are striking differences between like India versus Silicon Valley versus even Austin.
Yeah.
And and outsourcing, I think we have to first really understand why outsourcing happens. And it's not just purely for cost, but also like we have at Truckex, we have a large team overseas as well,
Hmm.
not just purely for the cost, because but we tried hiring people here to do the same job of like customer service, picking up the call for owner operator, or selling to an owner
They
operator,
won't
right?
do it.
Because they would not
They
do
don't
it.
want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, right? If you're spending like the whole day and you made one sale of what, $400, right? And your commission is what, I don't know, $40 or so. You'll be
Yeah,
pissed,
10%.
right? You'll be pissed. It's like, okay, what the hell, right? And for someone overseas, that $10 is like, oh, $40 is like, oh wow, right? $40, right? So
Yeah.
that's big deal for them. And I think that mindset is why people overseas work then much harder for the problem. And then handling these smaller transactions, you need more people. So
Mm.
in the grand scheme of things, you see that, oh, we have thousands and thousands of people overseas, but the same team has only like, I don't know, 50 people or 100 people, right? So it's like a huge ratio. But the problem which the people over here are solving is much larger. And now those are the problems which are harder to solve by AI. But the problem which
Yep.
you have punted to overseas, AI can solve a lot of it. Now, the question is is AI going to replace the outsourcing companies, or will outsourcing companies use AI to kind of bring in more business to them, right?
To
And I
make
think
them
both,
even more efficient operators, and then
yeah,
it's still a fraction of the cost. It's like, oh, it makes even more sense
more
to
sense,
go
yeah.
overseas.
And I think it can go
Yeah,
either
I can
ways.
see it going
Uh,
either way.
yeah, right. And it's too early to say. Definitely, a lot of outsourcing companies are using AI in any vertical, be it brokerage, be it restaurant industry, credit card industries, right, where all these people are there for collections, be it hiring. So AI is being used right now every way and imaginable. But I think time will tell how business economics work, and where it lands. I mean, yeah. So I think it can go either ways.
Yeah, I think there's a strong argument that it'll go towards, instead of what my original thesis was maybe a year ago, which was, hey, companies in logistics won't offshore as much. And like, I don't think people realize how much logistics companies offshore, the big ones.
Oh, they do a
It's
lot.
more than 50% of their workforce a lot of times. And
Yes.
so it's not like, oh, they maybe use a call center. It's like, no, that carrier sales, track and trace, call center,
And
sales,
now with
everything is
AI, yes, and now with AI, people see, I'm here in the US, my accent is still very different. Uh, like I do have an accent, right? And people who are
yeah,
sitting overseas who
yeah,
have
of
never been
course.
here, yeah, people who have never been here, their accent is even bad. And that's been one of the biggest concerns, right, with overseas operations, like if it's over the
Yep.
phone. Now there are software, you just click a button, the accent changes completely,
And
right?
suddenly you're
Live
John Wayne.
talking.
It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter, right? So there are so many things which outsourcing company can do to reduce or increase their efficiency, increase their output, also reduce the cost to certain. You can replace the humans, do the basic things of like. So yeah, I think there is a lot to be done there, and like logistics have so much outsourced job, and I think it will reduce a lot. I think AI will at least reduce the headcounts significantly, improve the quality,
Yeah.
even if they're delivering it from overseas.
Yeah, I think that it's going to reduce headcounts dramatically, and then it might even have like, and then my prediction will be, and this is on video, so maybe in 2 years or a year, I can pull this and be like, I was right. Or maybe if I'm way wrong, I won't pull it. Promise, I will
Mhm.
not. There's no point in saying when I was wrong, right? But what I'm saying is that I think there'll be a wave of headcount reduction because of AI. US based, right? You just won't need as many carrier sales reps, and you won't need as many sales reps and account managers. And like, you'll just, wherever you can cut, you will. The big companies, the mid-sized companies, the small companies. And then there
I
might be a
think it's the
second
other
wave of
way
like,
around. I think.
say
Go
that
ahead,
again.
sorry. I think it's the other way around, wherein if you have to cut headcounts, I would cut it overseas first, right? If I'm a logistics company,
Yeah,
because
I think
okay,
that that'll
hey,
be the first wave, but I think at
yes,
the end, they'll end up going back to overseas and reducing headcount in the US because the AI will actually enable them to be even more efficient and cost effective. And so they're big corporations, and that's what they look at as bottom line. I could be wrong. It's kind
Yes.
of a weird take. Second question. What is brokerage going to be in the next year? There was all this, I'll call it consolidation. Dat bought everything they could under the sun, and then Truck Stop felt left out, so they bought Denim, and
Yeah.
then like everybody bought something. I think the consolidation is probably done, or maybe it's like fizzling out and the summer is done and now we're going into peak season and people will go back to looking at their quarterly reports and then next year they'll try again.
Yep.
Do you think brokerage is racing towards a marketplace instead of a transaction where it's like, hey, the broker holds all the value? Do you think the shippers will be able to get the value of a broker without needing a brokerage in the next couple of years? And will that shift pricing even more? And it's a complex question because the economics involved.
Yeah.
Truckload rates are already depressed and low, and it's the longest freight recession ever, and everybody talks about it. But even if demand ticks up, if efficiencies really get good, then I don't think pricing changes much. I don't know if we're going to have a huge recovery if the efficiencies actually gained that could be. So how do you
See,
see
I
that
mean,
playing out? Do you think that AI will keep rates lower because of efficiency? Or do you think that the markets will recover and people will be COVID fat and happy again?
I think it's a much deeper question. Like, I thought about it since I started Truckers, right, back in 2016. Is why do brokers exist, right? And if you look
Yeah.
at pure efficiency point of view, cost point of view, uh, they don't have a place in the world, right? But
No.
at the same time, if you look at, okay, how would shipper do the job, right? So then we start looking, okay, how does shipper do the job, right, of finding a truck? Then you realize, oh my god, there are like a million and a half these small trucking companies where shipper just do not want to deal with. Why? Because there are a lot of companies you have to call and do the job, like calling them, figuring out who is the right fit for the moving the freight, and that's not their business. Their business is probably running a coffee shop. Their business is running a store or something else, right? That's not their core business is logistics. They do spend a significant amount in there, like shipping. So they say, okay, I'll just give it to a broker. It achieves two purposes. First is broker can find the optimal trucking company, be it
Yep.
owner operator large companies. Second, it pushes some of the liabilities to someone else
Oh yeah, the
of
liability is a
shipping.
big deal.
And liability is the biggest point why it is very hard to replace brokers, or why the brokers exist in a true sense, is they are demanding their commission, not just because they are connecting the dots. Of course they're connecting the dots, they have some operations to run it, but also the bigger piece is the liability. They are covering a liability if something goes wrong, uh, on behalf of shipper. So shipper is pushing that away from themselves to someone else, and they are ready to pay for that liability
Yeah.
cost.
I mean,
And
that's not just a thought or like your observation. That's just real facts because
yeah,
an example is the U.S. Postal Service and the trucking fatality in Texas
yeah,
in
exactly.
this summer,
They
and
can
then Covenant
easily risk it
Logistics.
off.
Yeah, USPS like we used a broker, Covenant.
Yes,
You figure out how to do the nuclear lawsuit, and USPS is able to just go like this. I think they're going to have some issues there anyways because it sounds
yeah.
like maybe they knew that the teams weren't being used, etc. But
Well,
that's
yeah,
why
that's
they
a
do it.
different story. Yeah, that's why they do
Yeah,
it, right?
but
That's the main reason. And now, how technology can solve this problem, right? If you look at the
mhm.
current consolidations happening, this is the consolidations are on the old tech, right? The tech that has built and grown using the traditional uh, like software. And what you'll see in the next year or two is more acquisition on the AI front. Like it will be absolutely and purely only AI acquisitions. Uh,
it will be
there,
crazy. That's
there
what
will
I said.
not
I
be a
think all those
single
companies are just going to
non-AI.
buy the AI companies instead of build it. But so I really wish we
Yeah,
had
but
more time.
for
Um,
them, it's hard to buy right now. There's no big company like even Baba, right? We're just getting started, right? It's not like it's completely proven product and everything, right? I mean, I would be lying to you, like, oh, it's
yeah,
just completely proven. It's not, right? It takes some time to bake in, and that's why you'll see more of these acquisitions in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
wherein DAT in truck stop says, "Oh, we have a visibility, we have a market reach. Can we build it in house? Sure." They will build some
Yeah.
pieces, but then they'll say, "Okay, some pieces we will acquire," just like they are doing a traditional. And if now they are becoming more aggressive, so rather than waiting for like 5 years for these companies to be giant, and then
Yep.
either you cannot afford them or pay hefty price, they might acquire it sooner. So
Yeah, I
we'll see.
agree. It's a good take. I ask everybody on the show this one question, and if I had more time, I'm gonna have you back for season 2. You're the last episode of season 1 of the Let's Talk Logistics, and I'm gonna
Oh,
break it into seasons because I'm running a business and I
I'm
have
the
to take
finale.
some time and segment
This,
it. But you get to be the last episode of season 1. So the last person to answer this question, which is if you could go back and change anything, is there a mistake that you made when you're building your businesses that was just stupid? And it can't be, and I have to give this caveat, it can't be something that was formational or foundational to your success. Like, hey, I made this huge mistake and it hurt, but if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be where I'm at. This is more of a question of if someone's watching and they're starting a company, and it
yeah.
can be as simple as like, I didn't have a lawyer review a contract and it cost me $1 million. That was just stupid.
Mhm.
What mistake did you make that if you just avoided it would have saved you heartache and you'd have got to the same spot?
Yeah.
And then whoever's listening can just say, I'll just learn from Tapan. What is it?
I think there will be a lot of these small things, right? The lawyer thing, right, or operations thing. But I think the biggest one, which I tell everyone, is which I did in my initial companies, is you say, "Hey, I have this job. I'm doing my job, right? I have an idea. Let me work on this, right, on the weekend, on the side, right, and like let me take it and grow it to a certain level before I quit my job." It absolutely and 99% of the time does not work. And the reason is, as soon as as soon as something goes wrong in your main job, you'll just abandon your whatever thing you were doing and just focus on this job. And then there will be a gap of 1 month, 2 months. You go on a vacation. It's like, oh yeah, let me come back from vacation. Let me start on that project again. It becomes a money pit. It becomes a time pit. You should not do it. Absolutely should not do it. If you have a conviction about something, just ponder upon it. The best thing to do is don't work on it. Talk to your potential buyers. Talk to them. Okay, this is what I want to build. This is what I'm trying to build. What's your take on it? Like, get the inspirations and see if it's going to really work, and then jump on it on actually building it by quitting your job. Once your ass is on
All
fire,
in.
you will go make it happen. Otherwise, it would never work. That's the only thing I've learned from the past, and I tell that to everyone who's want to do a startup, but they are doing it like on the
A
side. It never
side
works.
gig or like a little
Yeah,
hobby that they're like, hey, I'm gonna start a business. So your take, if I can summarize it, and I can't say it any better than you did, is that you're either all in or you're all out. If you
yeah,
dabble with a side job, a side startup, it will not only not succeed because it wasn't maybe a good idea, it will actually not succeed because you didn't go all in. And you'll never
yeah, and
know
it's
if
a
it would
waste
have
of time
succeeded.
and money actually.
Yeah,
Whatever
just a
money you
waste.
invest, yeah, it's a waste of. Rather, you would invest that time in your full-time job and make more
Yeah.
money there or do better there. And I'm not talking about investing, right? If you're investing in some, I don't know, Airbnb property or something, right, you're making some secondary cash, that's
Yeah.
different. I'm talking about a
You're talking
business,
about
right?
a
If you want to
startup,
build a
an
business, yeah,
idea, bring
yeah,
something to life. It takes everything you have. And if your back's not against the wall, you just won't actually do it.
yeah,
So,
you would not
hey, I
make it
appreciate
work.
it. Thanks for making time for this. I'm gonna have to have you on in season 2 to get an update on how Bubba's doing, and also just to learn more from you. I think this was a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate the time, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Logistics.